Working with sports and working with athletes is an exciting area to get to work with. And it's fair to say that professional sports are almost completely untapped in terms of any professional teams working with this level of consideration over the human body. Now, how that actually impacts on athletes. On every single sports team, there will be individuals that appear to be almost bulletproof and never get injured, and yet there'll be other athletes that just inexplicably seem to be injured nearly all of the time. And it's a common scenario that every coach has seen. And there's no rhyme or reason as to why that one particular athlete just seems to be on the injured list all the time. But if you're not able to consider the non-physical causes that are impacting on the tissues of that body, then it's very difficult to resolve the injuries that that athlete is experiencing. So when we're able to go to the deep emotional traumas, or when we're able to go to the different energetic systems that could be holding traumas or be holding other influences over the physical tissues, then we can actually look for the causes, the root causes as to why that athlete's body is existing closer to its threshold of injury. So the athlete who is bulletproof, their resting state, their homeostatic state is much, much lower, much further away from their threshold of injury. Whereas the athlete who is often injured is existing, their homeostatic balance has them sitting with their tissues perhaps just slightly below wherever their threshold for injury is. And at that point, it doesn't take a whole lot of intensity to have to take that body past threshold to the point where it injures. Now, another really important consideration in looking after athletes is not just the injuries. Yes, with the injuries, we can check the body when it's in neutral and when it's on the treatment table, but a huge part of return to sport, a huge part of returning to sport and making sure that that robustness carries over onto the field so that the athlete is as robust on the field as they are on the treatment table, is actually being able to test the tissues and test the body as it returns to sport and as you're loading that intensity back onto that body. So it's very difficult to get access to all of the things that are impacting a particular tissue. Let's say if we have a hamstring strain or a hamstring tear, I can test that tear on the table. It will look a certain way, but it's going to look very different when I begin to load that body at top speed. And then I'm going to be shown a certain number of different other factors. Potentially, I can see different factors that may be impacting that tissue that I couldn't see on the treatment table. So that's an incredibly important thing to be able to consider, and that's something that we do here all the time. Another thing to be able to consider is obviously the limiting beliefs. The beliefs of that athlete. If they believe that they're going to get injured, then there'll be programs in the subconscious that maintain that presentation and keep that homeostatic balance just below that threshold of injury where they're more susceptible. That also translates to performance. If that athlete sees themselves as absolutely limitless, then they'll be able to recruit and utilize somewhere very close to optimal strength, maybe even beyond what they previously had set up as their optimal strength levels. So we can improve strength, we can improve flexibility. All of this I've demonstrated many times, and I've seen lots and lots of times with athletes, that literally just changing a belief will change the physiological tissue, because when you change the belief, that belief is the rule, or at least it's a big part of setting up the framework of rules that govern the creation of the subconscious programs that maintain the physical body and dictate the output of that nervous system. So when we change beliefs and we remove limits, then what that athlete can actually produce in physiological output is much, much greater. So there's a huge amount that we can consider with athletes, and at the moment with athletes in sports, it's almost completely untapped. There's almost no professional teams that are actually looking at any of these things, and it's a really exciting area to get to work with.